All right, let's go ahead and get this part of it out of the way. I want to make sure that you know that Justin has not asked me to do anything on Give, Send, Go on his benefit. He's definitely not someone who would do something like this. However, I am someone who has done things like this before in order to benefit others, not myself. So that's why we're here. I haven't actually asked his permission to do this. I did. He is aware that I'm doing it because I did tell him that I was going to do it, but I did not ask him, and he knows that once I decide I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, and there's not a whole bunch that he can do to stop me. So that's where we're at right now. So let me give you a little bit of history real quick. If you watch this video, then you won't have to read that whole write-up that I have on the page, okay? I'm going to summarize it for you pretty quick here. Justin Snyder is my older brother, and he was born with a birth defect in his left hip that went undiagnosed and untreated for about 50 years or so. We believe, he and I believe, and our wives believe, that our mother had the same birth defect in her hip, but until the day she passed away, she blamed her knee pain on a car accident that she had had in her little Volkswagen Bug back in 1968 when she T-boned a big old station wagon in that thing, and her knee literally ate an 8-track tape player that was under the dash. So for the rest of her life, her knee hip pain and stuff, she believed was because of that injury. We believe that too, until Justin found out differently. See, when Justin was working building oil rigs over in Pascagoula back in the late 90s, he had an accident where a big old piece of pipe came out of a come along hook, and it caught him right at his knee and literally filleted the meat off of his left leg there down to his ankle, almost cut his foot completely off and everything, which he got through all of that. So in the ensuing years, he naturally thought that the pain in his left leg and knee and stuff was a result of that injury. But then he found out just a few years ago that no, his pain in that left leg was actually not related to that injury at all, but rather it was a hip problem that he had, and that hip had a birth defect that he was born with, like all birth defects, and that the only treatment for it was a hip replacement, which he eventually did. And so once he got that hip replacement done, everything was fine for a while. And thankfully, at that time, he was working for the Mobile County Public School System. So what he did, because the school system had really good health insurance, then he had the surgery at the very end of one school year. And being a school system employee, he was off for about 2.5 months with the summer. And then he was able to recover fully and then go back to work in that August or September, whenever school started back that year. And everything was just well and fine. He just moved right along. But unfortunately, according to the doctor, because of the effects of that artificial hip, the effects that it has had on his other hip, the natural hip, which also has his same birth defect, now he's in serious need of a hip replacement for that other hip. Now, thankfully, his wife still works at the Mobile County Public School System, so they still have good insurance to cover the treatment and such. But the problem is that now he's moved on to an hourly wage paying job as a commercial driver, a delivery driver in Mobile County and such. And so if he doesn't go to work, then he doesn't get paid. And Justin is the main breadwinner for that family. Although his wife does work for the school district, he is the main breadwinner for that family. And the gap between his income and hers is just immense. There's a big gap difference. To put it short, a long story short, which is not going to happen here. My short stories are always long, but he's going to need at least 2 to 3 months to fully recover. It may be a little shorter, but he's older now. He recovered a little quicker than that from his first surgery, but he was a lot younger too, a lot younger at the time. So that's part of what I'm trying to raise money to help him do right now, is to be able to take the time off and be able to pay his bills, because he doesn't have like paycheck protection or like the disability insurance that pays your bills if you're ever off work or whatever because of an injury or illness. He doesn't have that. And so in addition to him having to be the main breadwinner to take care of himself and his wife, he and his wife have also had custody of my grandniece their granddaughter since she was about 3 months old, and she's 9 years old now. So not only is he taking care of himself and my sister-in-law, he's also taking care of his 9-year-old granddaughter, my grandniece Grace. And he doesn't complain about that expense. He doesn't, complain about it at all. But it's still an expense that he has to cover while he's off work recuperating from this hip replacement that hopefully he can have near the end of this year, maybe the first part of next year. I mean, there are some things that have to come into play before he has an actual date and actual surgery. So it kind of leaves the actual date up in the air. So this little Grace she's also affected by the fact that he's not as active anymore with his hip pain. He basically goes to work, does his delivery driving, which is climbing up in this. When I say delivery truck, we're not talking about a step van. We're talking about the cab of these trucks. Some of them are the same size as a semi truck you see going down the interstate highway. They'll just have a flatbed or a dump bed on the back, and they'll have one of those little forklifts like you see stuck on the back of big delivery trucks sometimes. Well, he has to climb up in that big thing. It's got a bunch of different names, but one of the brand names for that little forklift is a Moffett, and he has to climb up and out and up and down out of that Moffett all day long. So by the time he gets home, there's no pain tolerance or stamina left for him to be able to interact with little Grace to fill in that father gap that he would be able to do as far as playing with her, taking her fishing, taking her doing things, stuff like that. So she's also suffering from the fact that he has developed this mobility issue because of this birth defect he was born with. So that's my concern for both of them. Now, that's one of the things that I'm trying to raise money to help him cover, is so he can take the time off to get his hip replacement and still be able to buy food and pay power bill and that sort of stuff. But in addition to that, some years ago, he bought a 2013 F-150, and that truck came with a 10-speed transmission that we were unaware of. We wouldn't have bought it probably. And that 10-speed Ford transmission was actually a collaboration done between Ford and General Motors. If you don't know, General Motors is Chevrolet, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, so on and so forth, and GMC truck. But that 10-speed transmission has a design defect in it, in all of them, somewhere between 30 and 70,000 miles. All of those transmissions go out. And the only thing you can do is have them completely rebuilt to put another transmission in. And unfortunately, in another 30 to 70,000 miles, the rebuilt transmission is going to go out as well. This is because it's a design engineered defect in it. They all do it. But Ford will not recall the transmissions and replace them or redesign them or whatever. So they're just dawdling right along. Well, his transmission went out some time ago. So he's in a position where this truck is sitting in his driveway, and he's still paying the truck note on it while it's sitting there. He can't drive it. Well, what's that mean, Dane? So what? I mean, that happens, right? Well, thankfully, he does have another truck that he was able to get since this truck went out. This transmission went out. It's a 95 model F-150, but see, it has a standard shift transmission in it. Now, what he calls his good hip is his left leg, which he's able to clutch with. But that still leaves him having to feather in and out every time he shifts that transmission with his right foot on the, with the throttle, the accelerator, which ends up exacerbating that hip as well. So if you've never had hip injuries or hip problems or shoulder problems, even though you're just moving your foot, or with a shoulder, you're just moving your hand, everything in that arm or that leg all the way up to the shoulder or the hip is affected to do that. So that's kind of where he's at with it. So here's my strategy. And again, I came up with that. I didn't ask his permission. I just told him I'm going to do this, and he knows that it ain't going to do him any good to tell me not to do it, because I pretty much do what I want. So here's my strategy. I don't think that he's ever even so much as tried to raise funds to go on a missions trip or anything, to be honest with you. So while his wife is employed by the school district, his salary matters. So my plan is this. Priority one would be covering his living expenses while he's off work recovering from hip replacement surgery. That's priority one. Let's say we don't make our goal. Whatever we do raise, up to paying for that time for him to recover, I will use it to pay his light bill, his house note, buy groceries, whatever medical issues he needs, gas for the vehicles, that kind of stuff. Okay? That'll be priority one. Once that's covered, any money's left over towards that, if we don't reach our goal, any money's left over, I will use that to pay towards him getting his transmission and his truck fixed. Okay? We're not going to fix the transmission, and he's still hobbling around crippled like a little weeble wobble that won't fall down. You understand what I'm saying? The transmission is secondary. You see, primary, I want to make sure he can get his hip replacement done so he can get back on his feet. You see, my mother would probably likely still be alive today had she been able to be more active than she was with what she thought was that knee injury, which turned out to be a hip injury. Had she gone and gotten those things looked after, she could have probably been much more active and would probably still be here today instead of having passed away back in 2011 at 66 years old, you see. So I was just on the phone earlier with Justin asking him about, before you have any kind of a hip replacement, you have to get below a certain body weight. And I asked him about that. He's not significantly over that now, but you have to get below that. And he said, man, I can't seem to get outside like I did last time and work in the yard and get the kind of physical activity right now. So I'm struggling to get down below that body weight because this hip won't cooperate with me. Well, that's kind of what happened with my mother. And so she ended up passing away of some basic, typical obesity-related health problems that she probably, or she could have maybe averted some of that had she been able to be more physically active, but she was not, and she was not primarily because of this same hip defect that Justin suffers from. So priority one for me is to be able for him to take off work for a month, 2 months, at the most probably 3. We don't know until we get into it. Is to take off the time from work and be able to pay for his food and stay afloat financially until he can get back to work. That's number one. Number two would be being able to get his transmission in his truck rebuilt or whatever it takes to get that vehicle back on the road for him. And if we don't raise the full amount, then covering his bills for his hip surgery will be priority one, with the transmission being if we can get everything else done, then whatever's left over, we'll put towards the transmission. Now, so if you could donate, anything you could donate would be greatly appreciated. I don't care if it's a quarter, okay? If you can't donate, well, thanks for listening to this video all the way through. And if nothing else, if you're a praying person, pray that we'll make our goal. And we'll be able to get this dude back mobile again, out there working in his yard, chopping his wood, mowing his grass, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't have to go over there and keep mowing it. You know what I mean? Well, I don't mind doing it. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to go mow his grass anymore. Okay. So let me know if you can help out, then please donate. And if you can't donate, if you don't have the funds, then please pray that we'll be able to reach our goal. Thank you.